Hi guys, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Clangin and Bangin with Mikey, episode 83. And this morning, uh not a bad morning, man. Woke up, my eyes open is AM, so we good. I was watching this Instagram live the other day. It's called Loving Me After We. And it's about this relationship coach, and like she just talks about different type of attachment styles and different type of things that people do. And so one of the things I will be talking about today will be the four different type of attachment styles, which is the four different is secure, avoidant, disorganized, and the last one is anxious. But in the order that I'm gonna read it off, it's secure, avoidant, aka dismissive or anxious, avoidant in children, and it manifests in adults as well. Anxious, aka preoccupied, anxious, and ambivalent in children. Disorganized, aka fearful. Yeah. And it manifests from childhood. Um, and it talks about how each attachment style, how we have a tendency to look for romantic partners, with the attachment styles that we grew up with. And yeah. So the first one we're gonna go over is what is a secure attachment style? A secure attachment is defined by ability to build healthy, long-lasting relationships. And how it develops is secure attachment is the result of feeling secure when your caregivers from childhood and being able to ask for reassurance or validations without punishment. That's mean you're secure. Ultimately, you felt safe, understood, comforted, and valued in your early interactions. Your caregivers were probably emotionally available. The signs that include a secure attachment is ability to regulate your emotions, easily trusting others, effective communication skills, ability to seek emotional support, comfort being alone, comfort in close relationships, comfort, the ability to self-reflect in partnerships, being easy to connect with, being the ability to manage conflict well, and high self-esteem and being able to be emotionally available. That's huge. Because if you're all that, that means you probably don't deal with anything else that isn't that doesn't vibrate at your same level. Like you probably don't talk to people who don't want to manage conflict well, or you probably don't you probably don't deal with it. How it manifests in relationships would be securely attached people grow up feeling secure emotionally, physically, and can engage in the world with others in a healthy way. As a result, people with secure attachment tend to navigate relationships well. Um, they're generally positive, trusting, and loving to their partners, which is true. They trust their partner's intentions, and jealousy is often not an issue for them. Securely attached people feel that they are worthy of love and don't need external reassurance. It's true. So the next one would be avoiding attachment style. Avoiding attachment style, as you guys know, would probably be the opposite of secure. Um, Avoiding dismissive, anxious, avoiding always for the same insecure attachment style. It is defined by failures to build long-term relationships while others due to inability to engage in physical and emotional intimacy. In childhood, you may have strict emotionally distant or absent caregivers. They left you to fend for yourself, expected you to be independent, reprimanded you for depending on them, rejected you when you express your needs or your emotions, being slow to respond to your basic needs. Some of the signs would be persistently avoiding emotional or physical intimacy, feeling a strong sense of independence, uncomfortable expressing your feelings, are dismissive of others, have a hard time trusting people, feeling threatened by anyone who tries to get close to you, um, spending more time alone than interacting with others, believe you don't need others in your life. And the last one would be commitment issues. And how this manifests in relationships, be a whole different range of things, man. Avoiding attachment adults may tend to navigate relationships at arm's length, meaning basically they'll let you get close enough, but not too close to them. And I personally have dealt with that in my personal life, and it's draining. It's not a conducive relationship. Um, while they allow romantic partners to engage with them, they avoid getting emotionally close. A partner may feel as if they never get inside and will inevitably be stonewalled or dismissed when the relationship feels too serious for that anxious avoidant partner. It's true. Um, the third one would be what is anxious attachment style? Anxious attachment style, also known as anxious ambivalent or anxious preoccupied, is another type of insecure attachment style categorized by fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, and depending on a partner for validation or emotional, regulation. And we have codependent, tendencies. Codependent means you depend on somebody else to, fix you from, for being mad or try to make you happy, and it's like it's always gonna be an internal job. It's never gonna be external. How it develops, simple. This attachment style stems from inconsistent parenting that doesn't attune to children's needs. These children have difficulty understanding their caregivers and have no security for what to expect from them moving forward. They're often confused by their parental relationships and feel unstable. Children with this attachment may experience very high distress. May experience very high distress when their caregivers leave. Sometimes their parents will be supportive and responsive to children's needs, while other times they will not attune to the children at all. So yeah, there's that. If you have an anxious attachment style, your parents may have also alternated between being overconfident or detached or indifferent, be easily overwhelmed, then sometimes attentive and then push you away, and made you responsible for how they felt. And some of the signs for this particular style would be clinging tendencies, highly sensitive to criticism, real or perceived, meaning made up in your head, needing approval from others, jealousy tendencies, difficulty being alone, low self-esteem, feeling unworthy of love, intense fear of rejection, significant fear of abandonment, and difficulty trusting others. How it manifests in relationships would be people with anxious attachment styles usually feel unworthy of love and need consistent reassurance from the partners. They often blame themselves for challenges in the relationships, and they can exhibit frequent and intense jealousy or distrust due to poor self-esteem. Ultimately, there's a deep-rooted fear of being abandoned, rejected, alone, or those fears typically express themselves in these ways. What is disorganized attachment style? Disorganized attachment style is defined as having extreme, inconsistent behavior and difficulty trusting others. How it develops is mostly stems through childhood trauma. Whether you grew up in an abusive home, whether it's verbal, physical, sexual abuse, it doesn't matter. Fear of your parents, their sense of safety is also present. Caregivers are inconsistent and often seen as a source of comfort and feared by their children, which leads them to their disorganized behavior. Signs in this particular setting would be fear of rejection, inability to regulate emotions, contradictory behaviors, high levels of anxiety, difficulty trusting others, and signs of both avoidant and anxious attachment styles. And this particular attachment style is also associated with mental health conditions in adulthood, which include mood disorders, personality disorders, self-harm, um, substance use disorder. Meaning that could be anything legal or illegal. You know, so how it manifests in relationships would be have people with disorganized attachment styles tend to have unpredictable and confusing behavior. Jordan says alternate between being aloof and independent and being clingy and being emotional. They desperately seek love. You know, they also push partners away because fear love. So there's that. They believe that they'll always be rejected, but they avoid emotional intimacy. They fear it as they constantly seek out or only to be rejected again. They perceive their partners as unpredictable and they themselves behave in unpredictable ways within the relationships as they continue to wrestle between the need for security and fear. Um, yeah. And that's a lot. Those four different attachment styles. It's a lot to unpack, man. And I know people personally who fit all four. You know, me, I fit all four. You know, but I'm more. If I had to choose one, I would have to be secure. You know, and it took me a long time to develop my self-esteem, develop my self-worth, and develop my ability to understand that just because I went through a traumatic childhood doesn't mean that I am what my conditions were, and I'm not. And at the end of the day, I think it's imperative to understand that just because you have went through something traumatic or whatnot, or and something bad happened to you, whatever it was, or you're dealing with vices, or you're dealing with some sort of unpredictable behavior. Um, Somebody that I care deeply about, um, and it's really difficult to talk about this situation or talk about this topic. Um, they have they don't have the ability to regulate their emotions. So when this individual gets mad, they have a tendency to shut down and not want to talk. And then it's almost like they fear the conversation. It's almost like they fear the fact that, that yes, I got love, love for this individual. Yes, I understand the traumatic events that they went through. All and But at the end of the day, at a certain point in time, you got to recognize your triggers. You have to recognize your emotions, and you have to be able to regulate them. And if you don't regulate your emotions, you're never gonna get better. You're never gonna become better because you're gonna keep doing the same thing that you've been doing. And I think that's imperative to realize, what your triggers are, what your flaws are, and you try to make yourself not try, but you take the necessary steps to help you become better. Um, and and me being a psychology major, man, and me working in social work, and it's like you see all this shit, bro. Like you see all the different attachment, styles and whatnot, and you see how how different people, deal with things differently. So with that being said, man, I think it's imperative to to not only recognize what you're going through, and because I'm not saying that your feelings aren't valid, I'm not saying that your feelings aren't important because they are, but what I'm saying is that you don't have to let these control you. You don't have to let just because you grew up in a household where you wasn't showing love or affection, whatever, not doesn't mean that you can't show it, show it yourself to you, or show it to yourself, or show it to your kids. That just means you got to teach yourself, man. I for one, I didn't really know what a functional relationship looked like until I moved out of my parents' house. Um, I didn't know what words of affirmation looked like until I moved out of my parents' house. Until I moved out of state, until I was surrounded by people who kind of taught me how to move, man, and kind of just taught me how to understand life, because it's like I grew up basically, everything was a criticism. You know, nothing was ever really good enough, and at the end of the day, that really fucked me up. You know, that fucked me up because I was dealing with individuals, and I didn't really know how to deal with my shit. I didn't really know how to deal with my emotions, or every time I brought up a certain emotion, in a certain situation, I was told, oh, hey, hey, well, and you know, my folks would be like, oh, so you still on this, and this. And I was like, yeah, because it's important to me. I'm trying to figure this out. Um, and I think it's imperative not to look at a situation and realize it's like, yeah, it may be ugly, but at the same time, it's also something that that needs to be dealt with. And a lot of our triggers, a lot of our emotions have to deal with the fact that whether you identify with secure, avoidant, disorganized attachment styles, and anxious attachment styles, whether you avoid with all, identify with all four, or whether you identify with one, and you make the correct, or you try to make the correct changes to help you get better. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. I remember growing up, and um, whenever I would get mad, um, this is when I was a child. Um, I would break things, because I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. And partly was that because how I grew up. I've never saw my folks have a civil conversation. I never saw them talk about their emotions or issues or whatever. All I saw was disagreements and fights. And it took me a long time to realize that what you saw wasn't right. What you saw wasn't healthy. What you saw was two people that, in the grand scheme of things, they didn't love each other. And um and it was sad, right? I didn't understand that. I didn't understand how you could, build with somebody, be married to somebody for decades and not love them. I didn't understand how you couldn't sit down and have a civil conversation with somebody, and it's like, and instead of attacking them, well, instead of talking to them, you're attacking them, and then it's like I never really understood that. I never really understood why somebody would do that, and it took me a long time, and it's like people may seem that I'm overly emotional and sensitive, whatever, and yeah, because my of my background, and I think it's imperative to understand that just because you came from a really fucked up place doesn't mean that that you have to stay that way. It doesn't mean that you have to you know perpetuate the cycle. So yeah, and and the one thing that brought me peace, man, was working on these music, and yeah, the Life album, man, we've been running into so many problems with that, man. I've had friends call me like, "Yo, what's the deal with the album? What's going on?" It's like it's just life, man. That's only thing I can say. And but yeah, there's four attachment styles. It's secure, avoidant, disorganized, and anxious attachment. Um, if you recognize whatever attachment style that you got, whether it's one of the four, and you want to work on making changes and work on helping you become better, then do that. Go to therapy. Get better friends. Express your emotions, and above all, man, like don't hold shit in. Like don't get so don't be so afraid of confrontation that you don't wanna that you end up not talking to the other person that that you want to talk to. you know because I for one, I know I'm not easy. I know I am like that. I'm pressured. I know that I'm you know, not the easiest guy to get along with or whatever it is. Because at the end of the day, it's it's imperative that we understand what we're going through as individuals, and you know, and also help ourselves get better, because that's what we're here for. We're, you know, we're here to get better. We're here to understand each other, and we're here to hopefully break the cycle of our parents' generation, and so on and so on and so on. And it's like man, believe it or not, I'll be 34 this year, and I keep telling myself that I'm not gonna have kids, or you know, I'm not gonna get married. But like, yo, I say that, but I know that's a lot, because if I'm ever fortunate enough to have kids, that's something I would love my kids to death, bro. And I would teach them that that it's okay to screw up, you know, but it's never okay not to try. And the way I was raised, I wouldn't do that to my babies, man. The way I was raised, that cycle, ends with me. That cycle of abuse, um, not being loved the way or where I needed to be loved, not being heard. So all that ends with me, man. And if I ever do have kids, bro, uh, my babies are gonna be they're gonna be a spitting image of their pops, man. It's like I'm gonna instill in them. It's it's okay to fail. Matter of fact, I expect you to fail. What I don't expect you to do is not try. Anyway, man, this is 22 minutes of your life that you won't get back. Hope you guys are keeping the 4 P's. Private play, positive pushing. See y'all next week. I love y'all. And like I always say, know your worth. Ghost.